Welcome to Meet the Biz. Today, oh my God, we have a man with a big, beautiful heart. And he is an amazing casting director. He is the president of the CSA, and he's a passionate advocate for inclusion and diversity in media and entertainment. Mr. Russell Boast. Mr. Russell Boast, hello.
Hey, hi everyone. Hi everyone. So nice to see everyone. I wish I could see everyone, but it's so nice to be here, David. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh my God, thank you.
It's been a dream of mine to be on Meet the Biz. I heard about Meet the Biz when I was just a child, and then I was like, oh, maybe one day David will invite me to be on Meet the Biz, but I didn't want to push my luck, and then I got that email, and I'm like, here I am on Meet the Biz.
Oh my!
So it really is. It's a great honor to be here.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I almost said, so where do I send the check? My God, what a buildup you gave me. What made you want to become a casting director? Did you always sort of go, this is what I want?
So I didn't, I grew up in partly like one leg in the theater, my mom's side of the family were all the performers, the artists, the opera singers, my granddad was a jazz pianist, and then my dad's side of the family was just corporate everything, corporate whatever, it was all about the money, and I grew up with kind of a leg in both kind of ponds, for want of a better word, and I love the arts, and I tried for a minute to be an actor, and then it failed horribly, and it wasn't so much that it failed as that I just realized that there were so many actors who needed people's help, and I was in a production when I was a very young kid of, I think it was Fiddler on the Roof, and I was playing for a chick, and
I could see.
and during intermission, I remember going into the dressing room and staring at the mirror, and all the actors were talking about the next job or the next gig, and they were concerned about money, and they were worried about their future, or if the show went on tour, if they would go on tour with the show. And I remember looking at my 11-year-old face and going, someone has to help these people. and it became, that's what my life became, and I've always been an advocate at heart. I was born and raised in South Africa. I was born into advocacy, and passionate work about changing people's lives. And when I found the film and TV business, I was what is known as a casting coordinator, which I had the luxury of being sent to foreign countries in Africa, and finding people who were not camera trained or had never, in some cases, had never seen a television, and getting them ready for Hollywood pictures that were going into, or international films that were going into those locations. Right. And it was that with my advocacy brain, it just gave me the opportunity to go to disenfranchised communities and say, we're bringing this movie to your town. I need to find extras. I need to find actors who want to be in the movie. I need to get actors ready who's interested in acting. And that was outreach to the community centers. It was outreach to homeless people. One of my movies, I actually cast street kids. And I sat on the streets of a place called Swakopmund in Namibia. I made friends with the street kids and then trained them up and got them ready for, this international film, and saw what that did to the communities, and saw how much value that brought if it was done properly, and that community was taken care of and wasn't taken advantage of in any way. Like little examples like bringing water bottles and giving the kids sweets and water bottles, which wasn't something that they were used to, and me saying that's not what we do here. This is not our territory. This is not our turf. We're going to come in. We're going to be respectful. We're going to do this movie, and then we're going to leave with having left as much good as we can, and without doing any form of damage or upset, or So I was so fortunate. I got to work in 9 countries around the world doing that, and then found myself in Hollywood 16 years ago, and I thought, well, this is going to be perfect, because now what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring all that wonderful, what I assumed was wonderful work, to the US, and then have this global platform to really continue that work. And
Yeah.
then, and what it was being a casting director. And then I started with a very well-known casting director who's my mentor, who I would be nowhere without, Rick Pagano, you know. And Rick had just come out of big studio films like the X-Men movies, and I started to make lists and offers to fancy actors, and a part of my soul died, because I was like, well, where's the work that I was doing? Where's that? You know, where's that place for me that combines these worlds? And then I quickly found that if I was smart and I started to really talk about authenticity in casting, that world would come trickling back into my life, you know. And it did, and it did in waves. And you know, I've been so grateful to have a seat at the table, for want of a better word, because this is my worlds colliding now, where I can take this industry that is incredibly powerful, that you know, that has far-reaching effects and impacts our own children and other people's children when they see themselves recognized on television, to all of that. Just has it's made me a better human being, and it has filled my life, you know, beyond measure, you know. So that's what happened. That was my journey from, I don't know, I didn't even know what casting was. And then I just found this weird place where it was giving back, and in sometimes making people a lot of money, not that often, but really giving people a chance. Giving people a chance was really where I found my niche.
Well, you know, just listening to you and taking you in, it affects me, because I think it makes me realize too that I'm in the right place, because I'm connected with people like you and we're in the same kind of feel of wanting to help others, and by helping others in one way or the other, it's that circular motion of feeding ourselves. It's coming from that good, wonderful place.
Right.
So thank you for that. It's amazing.
Of course, you know, at times it's hard. It's nothing's easy, you know, and there's always the barriers, and then you always come across some form of unconscious bias, and you're like, oh, that still exists. But the fight, what I call the fight, but it turned around for me was when I had my own kids, and they're two BIPOC kids who I suddenly felt an immense responsibility to make sure that they see themselves on screen. They see themselves. My husband and I are married. We have two kids, and I wanted to know. I want other kids to be like, oh, cool. They have two dads. Oh, cool. They have mixed race kids. Oh, cool. You know, like it's so important that our kids see themselves represented on television and in the media and in film. You know, it changes. It can change a person's life, you know. So whatever, you know, I can go on. Don't get me started.
No, it's not whatever. It's what's so needed now in the world, and thank God for people like you who keep it going, keep the light and the positivity going. So yeah. I want to. We have some of our students here today, just a couple, and they're going to join in. I'm going to throw out some more questions, and we'll just have a group fest here.
Sure. And please, I'm not. When you say casting director and president, I am. You can ask me anything. There's no wrong answers. Like,
this is good to know.
Don't use this opportunity to talk to an ally. You know.
I love it. I love it. Well, we have Jennifer Bevins here. Jennifer Bevins and Matthew Payne.
Again.
Everyone, Russell Boast.
If you can hear me, Dave, you're frozen.
Oh, I think you're frozen there. Are we frozen?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, there you are. Wonderful. So, well, wonderful. So, you know, I'm going to start with a question while we're all here. And this is a question that I put out online to everyone that you were coming on today, Russell. And Gail Williamson.
Oh, here we go.
I know, right? the woman we love.
Okay, I hope you're watching when you see this. Just so I can say I love you so much.
Oh, Gail Williamson asked, what has been your favorite casting job and why?
So I have a couple. I love all my work, and for all very varied reasons. The one that I really, I'll tell you about one from the past, and then one that's in progress right now. And the one from the past was it was called White Irish Drinkers. It was written and directed by John Gray, who created the Ghost Whisperer franchise back in the day. And John, this was a story. It was basically the story of John's life as a kid, as a young filmmaker. But he kind of rewrote it, and it's the first time that I'd worked with someone who was authentically telling their story, and it wasn't just a big horror movie or some flashy Marvel piece. It really was a soulful piece that he shot in his neighborhood when he was a kid, and it was the first time that, without him asking me to, I was asked to find the younger version of a real person, and it was incredible. It was incredible to be able to get inside of someone's psyche, and also to look at them from the outside and say, oh, I'm trying to work out how you see yourself, because you're looking for what you think you look like, but you don't necessarily know what you do, So that was the first one. And then I had the most incredible project, which I can't talk too much about right now, which is just really about a kid whose mom finds out that she's has cancer, and it doesn't have a long time to live. But this mom has been a caregiver to the kid for his entire life, and then suddenly has to step aside and allow him to create his own world and to find his own path in case she ultimately dies. And it is so beautiful, and it's so seldom that I come across a script where I can really put my words to work, and my feelings to work. And obviously I don't have to tell this group casting authentically is what I do. Finding those pieces is so hard, I landed the second season of Chance, the Hugh Laurie show, and it was the whole season was set in the victims of violent crimes unit. And then suddenly I had the luxury of saying, okay, I'm doing this the right way. You want a wheelchair user, this is what we're going to do. You want someone with facial palsy, that's what I'm going to find those people. And it's so seldom that I have that opportunity, it seldom comes packaged like that to me. And more often than not, it's me saying, I've got an idea that you haven't written. Why don't we do this? Which is, look, all the work is valuable, but it's so seldom to get, especially this movie that's just come across my desk, where I'm like, wow, this is a real story, and it's not a story of struggle or something that went terribly wrong. It's just a story about a boy and a mom,
right? Right. Well,
so, yeah.
One thing that you mentioned is something that's out there now, that so many people want the person who's playing it to actually, if you're in a wheelchair, cast somebody in a wheelchair. If you have cerebral palsy, cast somebody with cerebral palsy. Do you come across, though, that there are times where you can't find, whether it's a person with or without a disability, that you have a difficult time finding somebody who's talented enough to do that role?
So
also has
I have a couple of thoughts on that, and this is really stemming out of my time of going to a remote location in Africa where everyone said the actors don't exist, and finding the actors and training them up. So from that experience, has put me in a position now. Two things. When I hear, the actors don't exist, I'm like, well, that's so easy to say, but then what are we doing about that? Like if it is true, and I don't believe that it's true necessarily, that someone has the chops to take on a role and also matches the whatever's written, however the role is written, if that's true, then what are we doing about that? Like, we can't just keep saying that. Like, there's just an excuse now. It's become an excuse to just say, well, we couldn't, we tried. And I don't believe that, because of the work that I did throughout Africa and in different parts of the world. You just have to work harder. And that's the thing that I think people are afraid of, is that the default is, well, it doesn't exist, so we're just going to cast so-and-so. And my question is, I always say, like, do the work. If you have the lead time, and I know on television, sometimes we get, here's the role and you have to have it by next Thursday. And I'll get the calls because I'm tapped into the performers with disabilities community, and I'll get the calls saying, we need to find this by Tuesday next week. And I'm like, well, we can't do it the right way if that's the case. Doing that work takes time, and it takes an outreach, and it takes patience, and that person definitely exists. It's just not going to come through a breakdown that you just put out online.
Yeah.
And for me, I'm like, you either do it the wrong way or you do the work.
Yeah.
And if you do the work, you will find a beautiful actor that will change everything about the work that you're doing.
Yeah.
Or you can just cast someone, But why just cast someone when someone can bring an entire history and an understanding of something that an actor cannot play?
Exactly. Exactly.
So.
That's beautiful. We have Jessica Morgan entering as well here. And so we have Jessica Morgan, we have Jennifer Bevins, and we have Matthew Payne.
Hi.
Everyone, Russell Boast.
Hi, everyone.
Hi.
So we all have questions. I know we'll go around here. How about we start with Jennifer? Jennifer, how about you for a question?
Okay, how are you, Mr. Russell? Nice to meet you.
You too.
My first question for you is, what kind of food did they serve in Durban, South Africa?
What kind of food?
Yes.
So here's what it is. So I'm trying to think. So this is a long story, and I'll cut it very short. But basically, Durban was a British colony, and the Brits brought a lot of people from India to build the colony for them. Sounds familiar? And the people from India made the most beautiful Indian food, like the most incredible curries you've ever tasted. And I grew up on a lot of that food, and also because I grew up on a very small farm, I was blessed to eat a lot of African food. A lot of my kids were African kids, and we ate a lot of meat. Let's just say that. A lot of meat and a lot of pap. Which is kind of like maize. It's like meal ground up. But the Indian food in Durban, it's the best.
Now, do you miss South Africa? Do you sort of feel like you want to go back sometimes?
I do and I don't. I'm so settled here with my family, and my two kids, and I've created I'm so fortunate for the world that I've managed to create here in the US. So I miss the people, I miss the food. In South Africa, people are very outgoing. They are quick to talk to each other. You go to the store and you're buying some meat, and someone will say, "Hey, we're having a barbecue. Do you want to come to our house?" And you all end up at some stranger's house. It's a lot more relaxed there. And when I got to Hollywood, I was like, "Hey, what's your name?" And people were like, "Who is this guy? Who is this crazy?" And I'm just like, I'm that guy. That part of me has never changed.
This is a question about being so real. And it's like, when did you become the president of CSA? You're the president, of the Casting Association of America, and you're just like, I want to run up and hug you. Of course, we can't right now, but
I would, if we could. I would. You know, I'd run up. I would always run up and hug you. You know, I think there's a lot to be said for really working towards change. You
right.
know, and I joined the board of directors 8 years ago, and I joined because I wanted to see if I could help or if I could make a difference there. And I, you know, and almost immediately started working on the Inclusion and Diversity Committee, which is now Entertainment and Equity Committee, because I saw a possibility there to really give casting directors a different focus and give them a different voice. And I realized that with casting directors, we are in a unique position to be in the room when a lot of decisions are made. We don't necessarily make the decisions, but we are privy to the conversations that form those decisions. And I wondered if 8 years ago, if there was a world in which, if I had the information and if I knew how to appropriately work with someone who was deaf or hard of hearing, or if I had this just a small amount of skill to be able to be a real and true advocate, then maybe in the room I could say, wait, that's not really this is not important right now, or this scene is not going to work for this type of reason, and not to challenge the writers or the producers or the directors, but rather educate them. And have a little voice in the room that says, hey, you know what? You know, we could try. Like, what if we reimagined this role? You know, and the more work I did like that, you know, we held these open calls for performers with disabilities in the trans community and Middle East, North African, South Asian actors. And I did those open calls, yes, to discover actors, but more to have our CSA members have to sit in a room for 2 days with actors that they'd never ever worked with, so they could come out of that experience on the Monday morning and say, you know what I learned to do? You know what I know? Guess what I know? I just met you know, 15 wonderful actors who are hard of hearing or deaf. And then the producers would go, where? And then next minute we'd be getting the calls, and then it started to spiral, you know, so that I started that train, and then people started to kind of listen to me, even though I think they still think that I'm a little crazy. And I time off the CSA, just my time is up just because of time, you know, next year. But it gave us, the organization, a purpose. And in that purpose, I found that there was a lot of outreach to be done, that there was a lot of good work that could come from the organization. You know, that wasn't just, oh, we're a CSA member. You know, I just found that there was a world in which casting directors could really be at the forefront of all conversations, but particularly the inclusion and diversity conversation.
Right.
You know? And then they made me president.
No, what did they just said, okay, we want you as president, or did...
Oh no, they had to beg.
Of course.
Just kidding. No, it just, you know, it became the thing. It became a driving thing for me, and it became incredibly important for me. Yeah. You know, and the more that I saw the work impact the world, the more I felt motivated to, and I'm not sure where this lives online, but whatever, to stand on a bigger soapbox, you know, and really use that soapbox to do the work that I believed in.
And it's so great too, as they say, you're the president of it, so you have this big microphone right now, this big this voice that can change, can make things happen.
Yeah.
Jessica,
I like to think so. I don't know if it's true.
Well, I feel it's true, because I do feel a change in the industry. So
yeah, and you know, I think, I mean, this, I'm sure some, you know, this is a question that's going to come from someone, is, you know, it has, you, like David, you and I, and Gail, I came in just as the wave was hitting, and I would never, so much work had been done over so many centuries and years before Russell Boast appears, you know, but we caught it all together at a very good time. you know, where doors were being opened, where people started to talk about casting authentically, and we just caught that, and I was able to step in and say, these actors do exist. You need to do the work. You need to find these actors, and we need to understand this world in order to be true allies. And I mean, I've seen it. I hope you actors have seen it. You know, that there's an outcry right now for not doing what's right, doing what everyone always should have been doing in terms of casting. You know.
Yeah. Jessica.
Yes.
Hi, Jess.
Hello. How are you doing?
Good. Very good. I have 2 young boys, and so if you hear screaming or a naked child jumps into my lap, that's one of my sons. I'm doing great. Thank you for asking.
Yeah. I have a question for you. Yeah, I was just wondering, as a CSA head president of that. Yeah, I was wondering, what has been the most emotional slash inspiring feeling that you would normally get for being the president of this beautiful organization, for people who are deaf and non deaf as well.
You know, I've had a couple of really beautiful moments. You know, the day of the open call for performers with disabilities, the biggest center in LA where most actors went was to Paramount. Thanks so much to them for organizing it, and Monica Mickelson, who's been incredible in this.
Love her.
You know, and my dad, who, it was the last time that I saw my dad before he passed. They were out here from South Africa on the weekend of the open call for performers with disabilities, right? And we had a big waiting area for any of those of you who went. And my dad, who I didn't spend a lot of time with my dad growing up. We didn't see eye to eye. So he didn't know a lot about the work that I'd been doing, and they dropped into Paramount to visit, and they came into this beautiful room where sign language interpreters were working with actors, where people were warming up, getting ready to go into the audition space. And my dad walked in and he looked at me, and he was so proud of me, you know, in this beautiful room of, at that time, there must have been 60 performers with disabilities getting ready to go into the audition. And I was like, because he always asked me, what are you doing with your life? What is this casting thing all about? Like, what does that mean? You know?
Right.
And for the first time ever, I think he got it, you know, and in a room with people that I love so much, and hundreds of people that, David, you were probably there. I know Gail was there. I know that room, the majority of that room today are my friends.
Yeah.
And I stay in touch with them, and I know them, and they have deeply changed my life. So yeah, so as a president, it's not a CSA, it is a CSA because it was a CSA event, but it was a moment where I really felt connected to the work that I was doing. You know?
Okay.
It's really so wonderful, and I use this word a lot, is a family, an extended family that is just, thank God, because I don't know what I'd be doing right now. You know, especially during this time that we're going through.
Yeah, without a doubt, you know.
I do, before we get to Matthew, I have another question. People online have written questions. Alan Rucker.
Well, here we go. No, if it's longer than 3 sentences, I'm not answering this question.
That's right. Well, Alan, I'm sorry, but we.
I'm texting him right now. What are you doing?
What are you doing? Alan asks, where do you see the state of diversity casting 5 years from now?
Oh, Al. I wish we were having less conversations about it, and not to, like, I don't want to put anyone out of a job, but I just I wish that it wasn't such a big conversation all the time. You know, I wish that it wasn't like me having to push, or me having to suggest, or David having to really do, and Gail to do the kind of groundwork that has to be done in order to amplify voices. I'm like, I hope in 5 years' time that all the people we met and introduced to all the people we know, that those people have done the same as I did in that room that day. And I hope that all of those powerful people in this business and this industry, and those executives and those casting directors who are different from me, really get it. And we have way more allies in way more powerful positions, you know, so that the conversations are less and there's more work available. It's really what I would love to see in the next 5 years. I've seen tremendous growth in the past 5 years, but in the next 5 years, what I would like to see is that it wasn't Gail or Dave or my idea, that it was everyone else's idea. And it is everyone else's idea, you know, and that it's moving forward in a way that doesn't feel like a sudden pendulum swing, that doesn't feel like, oh, we're just focusing on this right now because this is what we should be focusing on, that it just happens.
Yeah.
You know, you know, thank you, Ellen, for that very intelligent question. No, I you know, that's really what I hope. You know, I hope that this, the ripple effect that was set in motion a very long time ago, not by me, but has built momentum, turns into something that is just what we do.
Yeah.
You know.
Matthew.
Yes.
Hi, man.
Hi. I saw one of your movies that you worked on this morning. It was one from 2017, a movie called The Tribe, which, for those of you that haven't seen it, it's about three women and how they deal with a pandemic and the world, you know, after the pandemic. My question is to you is, how do you view this movie now that we're in this situation of COVID-19?
Wow, Matt. So I'll be honest with you, like that, as you said it out loud, I was like, whoa, I haven't even thought about it. Like the power of that movie now, until you started talking about it, I was like, whoa, I really had not thought about it. And I'm so close to the producer, writers, directors of that movie. I think I went into shock when we were locked down, so I didn't really think beyond that. But I feel like I want to go and watch my own movie again right away. You know, how did it feel to you?
Well, it felt more real. If I had, you know, I saw it for the first time this morning. If I had seen it in 2017, maybe I would have thought, this is far-fetched. Something like this would never happen in our modern age. But now it's just like, you know, we're in the first wave of a pandemic.
Right.
You know, and who knows if this thing's gonna mutate and get worse, or whether we're gonna have a vaccine and when. But it felt real. It didn't feel like a fantasy story.
So I'm going to, after this call, I'm going to relay that to the producers and the team, because I know that it would mean so much to them to hear that. You know, Roxy, who is a dear friend of mine who directed that movie, she is one of the most progressive, forward-thinking, all-embracing female directors that I know of. You know, she's going to be so moved to hear that. And now I'm gonna watch it tonight. Thank you for the tip.
I love it. That's
One more thing.
Sure.
How are movie sets handling social distancing? Because you got a big budget movie, you got a lot of people on their film crew, not just the cast.
I think it's really, people with attorneys and medical specialists way more intelligent than I am are working through all of that, the safety requirements in terms of all of that. It's really interesting because I just finished a movie that wrapped in Massachusetts, and which was kind of a low risk zone for a while and has been, and they did a lower budget movie during COVID, which was very interesting because they had the luxury of having a very small group of actors, no big extras, no big scenes with extras. The scenes were very contained, and they could do it safely. They could do it in a way that was safe. But when it comes to these bigger studio movies that you're talking about, like I don't know what that's going to look like. And you've seen yourself, I think, if you follow the press, that so many of them have talked about coming back, but have not necessarily started shooting yet, or have started and then have stopped. I wish I could foresee the changes that would happen on set. I certainly see the changes that have happened for me, because everything's online now, and I miss actors. I miss being in the room with actors. I love hugging and shaking, showing love to actors, and really becoming
a little frozen,
forming mind. And now suddenly, sorry, can you hear me? Am I back?
I can hear you.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I just think when the self-tape came out, I was so resistant 10 years ago. I was like, self-tape? Please don't give me a self-tape. I want to see actors in the room. And now here we are in this world where that's all it's going to be for now,
Yeah.
I don't know. I think there's so much uncertainty, and I just think that we can't let it get in the way of our creativity. We just have to keep pushing forward and know that there will be a way, and we'll find a way to get back to work.
Yeah. I have a question for you again.
Sure.
Yeah, as a casting director. Yeah. Yeah. Can you tell me on who or what inspired you to into being a casting director yourself?
Actors exactly like you inspired me to be a casting director. Like I said, the moment that I didn't know what casting was, but I wanted to be a casting director was when I wanted to find a job where I could give people opportunities that they didn't necessarily think they would have, or didn't think that they didn't imagine themselves doing. I really think that's what drove me into being a casting director. And yes, I love talking to the agents. I love working with making lists of very well-known names. But at the end of the day, it's about being with people, and that's really has always been my passion for casting.
Yeah, well, you are one of the great. You are really definitely one of the greats.
Oh, thank you, thank you.
I have a question too from Anita Hollander.
Oh, every one of them. I'm just kidding. Hi, Anita. I know you're going to listen to this. Hi, Anita.
Anita says, the question: what does he think is the most effective way to deal with a show that is blatantly and repeatedly cast inauthentically, capitalizing on disability while not casting PWDs?
I think, Anita, you should call them up. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. This. I wish I could say that this fight would go away, but until we can put the tools we have available to ourselves into everyone's hands in some way, it's going to be a continual fight, And I just wish, for me, it's the sense of ignorance and the sense of this just being unconsciously, and this unconscious biasness that goes around. Like, I dream that as a casting director, what you do is you you can present great ideas, but the way that you get someone to say yes, and I'm talking about this team, this group that you're particularly referencing, the way to get them to say yes is to make them think it was their idea. And that's what I'm trying to do from inside the room, is I'm trying to if I want to get an actor hired and I love that actor, I make it the people in the room think it was their idea to hire the actor. I talk them around in a circle until they go like, oh, we've got this great idea. And I go, well, it wasn't really your idea, but thank you. But I don't ever say that out loud, because the minute it's their idea, they run with it like the wind. And I'm trying to find, I'm an advocate, but I'm not necessarily a fighter. And I understand that creatives and the creative world doesn't understand confrontation. So confronting with figures and facts, as valuable as that is, creators don't know how to deal with it. So they just reject it, right? I'm trying to find, and I don't know, Anita, you can call me after this and we can talk about ways to explore this, but it's finding that way to make them think it was their idea. You know, their idea to do it the right way. I don't have the answer, but from my point of view, I just consistently keep finding ways to do that.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a question for Mr. Russell.
Sure.
My second question is, how did you like working on The Fix in 2019?
Oh, I love The Fix so much. You know, to work with Marsha Clark, the Marsha Clark, was just, when we got the call to go and interview on the job, because we have to interview for the job, I joked and I said, well, I know Marsha Clark's not going to be in the room, right? And we walked into the studio, and the first person I saw was Marsha Clark. and we had to, and then we had to like look all fresh and come up with all these wonderful ideas about how we would cast their show, you know. And I was really struggling to speak because Marsha Clark was sitting right there, you know. I love that show. I love that show, and I loved it for a number of reasons. You know, it was an all-female team, and I was the only guy in the studio, and I just stood there. I'd just be in the corner, and it was special at that time because I would see actresses walk in, and I would see the sense of relief, because they'd walk in, and the first thing they would say is, oh, it's a room full of women. And I was like, it meant so much to me. Like that moved me, even though I was just the guy standing in the corner, you know. But to see that sense of relief from actresses, and not because they'd been subjected to anything wrong, just because they had never walked into a room full of women creatives, female creatives, you know. And I got so much joy out of working with that incredibly smart, Marsha's wickedly smart, and just working with that team I love that show. I wish it could have gone on forever.
Thank you.
Sure.
What advice would you give to actors that are coming in to see you and audition for you?
So I have a couple of like defaults. First of all, when you come into my room, or you come into my now Zoom room, I want you to imagine that you've already got the job and you're just coming to the table read. Okay? I don't want you to sit before the audition and go, oh my gosh, I really need this. I really want this role. I want you to go, I got the job and I'm just coming to the table read. Okay. And I say that for a number of reasons. I say that because when you walk in, then there isn't a sense, it puts your mind at ease a little, because it takes the pressure off you. You go, oh, I've got the role. And not in an obnoxious way. If you just give yourself the sense of, I'm just coming to the table read, you can come in as a peer of mine, not someone who needs something from me, and really do your best work. You know, and my job as a casting director is to create a safe space for you to do your best work. So on the other side of the door, I'm prepping everyone to give you the best experience I can possibly give you, so you can do your best work and nail that audition. You need to do the same for me, is get rid of and I say it so easily, I get rid of the fear. We all get nervous. Channel it in a different way. But the way to channel it is to go, I got this role. I'm just coming to the table read. Walk in and go, oh, these are my friends. I'm ready. I'm ready to sit down and work through this with my friends. And straight away, your whole performance changes. You know, your whole sense of how you center yourself changes, and we see you differently because when people say I really need this job, I turn around and I say, I really need a job too. Could you help me with that? when you say I really want to make this movie with you, I say I really want to make this movie with you too. You know.
I love that.
Did that answer your question?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. A great question, a great answer. What do you want the most at this moment in your life?
It's really tough because I never really focus on what I always think that if you focus on what you want, you forget about what you do have. So my own mantra is to be clear about what I don't want, and then everything else becomes what I want. Because if you go, this is what I want, and you don't get it, you feel like you failed in some kind of way. If you're clear about what you don't want, everything else is what you want. And then there's an abundance in your life, right? Right now, I am working towards committing myself to movies and TV shows that only make a real difference. I hope that I've got myself to a point in my career where I can look at a project and say, this is not for me, because I really only want to work on something that changes the world. And that's really would be it's fancy talk, because I'm gonna get, I'll get offered a TV show next week that's like The Fix, and I'll be like, oh, this is amazing. But my goal is to really, especially in the feature film, the independent feature film world, is to only work on films that make a difference. That would be my want right now.
Yeah. As we wrap this wonderful time with you, and I wish we could just bring, the potluck over and have a nice potluck right now.
Same.
Question, Dave.
Yes.
Okay, my last question is very exciting to ask you. Besides all the other ones, they were exciting too, but this one is my favorite. So, what tradition do you do on your birthday on July 18th?
My birthday. What do we do? So it's funny because when you have two kids, you're so busy focusing on their birthdays that your birthday actually becomes my 4-year-old and my 6-year-old's birthday. So normally I would just want to do nothing, but because I have a 4-year-old and a 6-year-old, it's generally something like Disneyland. This is not for me about my birthday, but we normally do something fun for the kids. That's what it is. That's what these days with kids and I love that question. Thank you so much for asking such smart and personal questions to me, and not like the normal, how do I get a job questions. It means a lot to me. I try and find a way to, if my kids are having fun, I'm having a great birthday. So whatever's going to be fun for them is what we do to celebrate my birthday now.
Well, next time you go to Disneyland, when it opens.
Not soon.
Right, not soon, but when it does, I want to come.
I have my last question for you.
Sure.
I know that this is a tough time for everyone. No, but what is the one thing that drives you the most? Into being a best for everything. Is it your family, or is it just the way that you are teaching your own kids?
It's definitely my kids. My kids are like my biggest motivator, you know, but it's an extension of my kids. So it's for my kids because it's for all kids, you know. And having kids makes you so aware of how powerful information when you're a kid is to a kid, you know. And surrounding my kids with other kids with disabilities is so important. Surrounding my kids with a world that I believe in and I want them to grow up in and be familiar with is like so important. And so it starts there, and then it moves into how we can do this on screen to impact other kids around the world, you know, that we can't necessarily reach, you know. Someone who feels alone somewhere in the middle of the country right now, who can just go, I'm important, I'm in this movie, you know, no matter what it is, like that is my driving force.
Okay. Yeah, well, it's the same here. I mean, I'm actually I'm reading some of these children's books for kids, and during this time, and I want them to know that they are not alone, and that they. I just want them to be happy as you make your own happiness with your own kids and the kids and the kids in South Africa as well. So.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Matthew, did you have one more question or?
Sure. You mentioned that you have kids. What's your whole take on child actors?
You know, just because my eldest CJ, he's 6, he's going to be a muso. He's continuing. He wanted an electric guitar when he was 4. He's just started piano lessons. These are all not motivated by me. I've given my kids space to find their own feet. You know, I think parents have a innate habit of projecting their own what they wish they had done onto their children, and I'm letting my kids, you know, the babies are all about soccer and monster trucks, and then CJ is like writing little songs, and he gets teary when a sad song comes on, you know. And he for sure is going to, I pretty much, much to my chagrin, is going to end up in the entertainment business somewhere. And I think it's different from when if we talk about child actors that we know and we've known growing up that have become now famous or not so famous, you know, I think the world is a little different now. You know, I think that if kids choose to be in the entertainment business in any way, that they'll have a much more authentic experience. I hope they will, you know, and they'll find their own way. Whereas, you know, back in my day, you know, those child actors were managed by their parents. A lot of stuff went down. They weren't necessarily, the timing was not good. Let's just say that, you know, for them. And I think that yeah, I think kids today, I think it's, if they want to do it, they should do it, is really what I think. The next thing that I want to say is then someone has to really take care of that career, you know, and really look after those kids, you know. We've all seen the ones that have done great, and we've all seen the ones that have not done great. I don't think you can stop a kid from getting into the arts. We don't choose the arts. The arts chooses us, because if we chose the arts, if we had a choice, we probably wouldn't have chosen the arts because there's no money. But no, the arts chooses you, you know, and I think that happens to kids. And then what happens in terms of how they're managed and their careers is what you really have to be mindful of, is what I'd say about child actors. I know my son, Papa, I want to put on a show. And I'm like, oh, here we go.
I want to thank you so much for coming. You have gotten so many people on the internet knew that you were coming, and like Jason Stewart said, oh, he loves you, and and so many people just love you, and I thank you for being here today. You are a blessing.
Of course, Dave. You too, and it's nice. You're so welcome. You guys all, thank you so much for being your time, and David, and it's a small community, but we're a strong community, and we are family, and this work will continue forever.
No. Once we open, you have to come visit Performing
I will,
Arts.
without a doubt. Aren't you close? Where are you, in the Valley?
We're in Inglewood. It was formed, I think, 22 years ago by John Paces, amazingly, and I joined about 7 years ago. So
no, I can't. I would love to. I'd love to come do some small work sessions and really get into the room with you guys. That would be amazing for me. So cool.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Of course. Bye. Bye, guys. Enjoy the rest of your day. Bye.
Okay.